Claire Morrison pulled her coat tighter against the autumn chill as she stepped onto the cracked sidewalk. The wind carried the scent of damp leaves and distant wood smoke, a reminder that winter was just around the corner. She balanced a steaming casserole dish in her hands, careful not to spill as she made her way to the worn down house at the end of the block. Mr. Edwin Tate's home stood apart from the others, not because it was grand or impressive, but because it seemed frozen in time. The shutters hung slightly askew, the garden had withered from neglect, and a single light flickered behind the curtain. Claire knocked twice, then waited. After a long pause, the door creaked open, revealing Edwin Tate. Thin, frail, and draped in an old cardigan. His eyes, once sharp and knowing, now held a tired wariness. "You again," he muttered, though his tone wasn't unkind. Claire smiled. "I figured you could use a hot meal." He hesitated before stepping aside, allowing her in. The interior was neat but lifeless, filled with the echoes of someone who once lived vibrantly but had since given up trying. Claire set the casserole on the kitchen table and lifted the foil. "Chicken pot pie. Thought it might be better than those frozen dinners you keep eating." Edwin let out a dry chuckle as he settled into his chair. "You're persistent, I'll give you that. People usually stop knocking after a while." "Well, I'm not most people," Claire replied, pouring them both a cup of tea. They ate in near silence at first, the only sounds the clinking of cutlery and the soft hum of the old refrigerator. Claire had expected awkwardness, but there was something oddly comfortable about it. "You remind me of her, you know," Edwin said suddenly, staring at his plate. Claire glanced up. "Your wife?" He nodded, his grip tightening around his fork. Margaret was stubborn too, always thought she could fix the world with a kind heart. His voice wavered before he composed himself. "She died 6 months ago. Stroke, they said. But I don't believe it." Claire blinked. "What do you mean?" Edwin set his fork down. "She was perfectly healthy. She never had heart issues, no warnings. Then one day she was gone, just like that." He looked up, his tired eyes sharp now, searching hers. "My son Victor handled everything, the hospital, the estate, the funeral. Too fast, too neat. And now he's the one with all the power." A chill ran down Claire's spine. She knew family conflicts over inheritance were common, but something in Edwin's voice made this feel different. "Do you think—" She hesitated, unsure if she should even say it aloud. "That he had something to do with it?" Edwin finished for her. He gave a hollow laugh. "I don't think, Claire. I know." Claire swallowed, the warmth of the meal now a distant memory. She had come here out of kindness, but in that moment, she realized she had just stepped into something far more dangerous. Claire sat across from Edwin, gripping her now cold cup of tea. His words lingered in the air, dark and unsettling. "I don't think. I know." Edwin's son, Victor Tate, was a name she had heard before in passing. Successful, wealthy, well-connected. If there was foul play, proving it would be nearly impossible. "You have to understand," Edwin continued, his voice quieter now, as if afraid someone might be listening. "Victor took control of everything before Margaret's body was even cold. The will, it changed. The assets transferred. My own home. Technically not even mine anymore." Claire frowned. "But how? Wouldn't you have had to sign something?" Edwin let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, I did. But not willingly. Victor has a way of making people feel cornered. The lawyer he brought in, the documents, already prepared. I was grieving, confused. He said it was to simplify things. But before I knew it, I had nothing." Claire's logical side kicked in. "It sounds awful, but that doesn't mean he killed your wife." Edwin exhaled sharply. "Margaret was fine, Claire. She had a checkup 2 weeks before she died. Her doctor said her heart was strong. Then suddenly she has a stroke? And conveniently, Victor handles everything?" He shook his head. "I saw the death certificate. No autopsy. Victor made sure of that." Claire wanted to dismiss it as paranoia, an old man grasping at shadows. But something about the story gnawed at her. The speed, the secrecy. It was too clean, too controlled. She hesitated. You said you were forced to sign things? Did Victor threaten you? Edwin stared into his tea. He didn't have to. He knows exactly how to make people feel powerless. That struck a nerve. Claire knew that feeling too well. Years ago, when she was just 13, her father had died unexpectedly. A workplace accident, they said. But Claire had always sensed there was more. Her mother had been silenced, settled quickly. She had watched her family lose everything while the company walked away untouched. She had buried that pain for years, but now, Edwin's story cracked something open. That night, after leaving Edwin's house, Claire sat in her apartment, staring at her laptop. Victor Tate. She typed his name into a search engine. At first glance, everything looked ordinary. CEO of Tate Holdings, investor, philanthropist. But as she dug deeper, the cracks began to show. A dispute with a former business partner that ended with the man losing everything. A charity fraud allegation that never went to trial. Multiple legal cases against employees who violated contracts, each one settling quietly. Most disturbing of all, a rumor that Victor had a hand in his former mentor's sudden decline, a man who, like Edwin, had lost control of his empire overnight. Claire's pulse quickened. The pattern was there. People who got in Victor's way didn't just lose, they disappeared. She closed her laptop, her heart pounding. Edwin might not be paranoid after all. Claire sat across from Sarah Langley, her longtime friend, and a sharp-witted lawyer known for taking on impossible cases. The dim light of the cafe cast shadows across Sarah's face as she skimmed the notes Claire had scribbled down about Edwin and Victor. You realize what you're asking me to do, right? Sarah finally said, setting the papers down. Victor Tate isn't just some greedy son. He's a legal viper. Everything he does is by the book. On paper, he's untouchable. Claire folded her arms. You mean, on paper, he makes himself look untouchable? Sarah exhaled. Let's assume Edwin is right and Victor manipulated the estate. Undoing that? Nearly impossible. Edwin's mental competence would come into question, and Victor controls the medical records. Even if I took this to court, a judge would likely dismiss it. Claire's frustration boiled. So he just gets away with it? Unless you have proof that he coerced his father or tampered with Margaret's death, yes, Sarah said bluntly. And if you start poking around, trust me, Victor will notice. She was right, and he already had. Claire had sensed it before. Subtle things like her inbox suddenly filled with phishing attempts or an unfamiliar car parked near her apartment. But now, the warnings weren't subtle anymore. That night, she came home to find a notice from the nursing board. Someone had filed an anonymous complaint accusing her of professional misconduct. Nothing serious, but enough to launch an investigation. Her stomach twisted. This was Victor. And then Megan called. They put a hold on my adoption. Her sister's voice wavered. Something about a flagged background check? Claire, this doesn't make sense. Claire's blood ran cold. Victor wasn't just coming after her, he was going after her family. She needed to outmaneuver him. Fast? She called Sarah again. What if we find something that proves he's done this before? Sarah hesitated. You'd have to get someone who used to work for him to talk. But anyone who's crossed Victor? They don't just lose. They disappear. Claire thought back to the business partner who lost everything. The charity fraud case that never went to trial. The mentor whose fortune mysteriously vanished. Someone out there knew the truth. Someone was still afraid. Then I'll find them, Claire said, steel in her voice. Sarah sighed. Claire, listen to me. If you push this, you're not just risking your job, you're risking everything. Claire already knew that. But walking away wasn't an option anymore. Claire had expected Victor to retaliate. She just hadn't expected him to move this fast. The first strike had been her job, an anonymous complaint that put her nursing license under review. A nuisance, but not career-ending. The second strike was worse. Megan's voice shook over the phone. They flagged my adoption application, Claire. A family concern came up in the background check. Do you think it's because of you? Claire gripped the edge of her desk. Megan, She stopped. What could she say? It wasn't a coincidence. Victor was behind this. He wanted her to feel trapped, like every move she made would cost someone else. Just tell me if I need to drop the application, Megan whispered. I can't risk losing this child, Claire. Claire's throat tightened. Her sister had spent years trying to adopt. If this fell through, I'll fix this, she promised, but the words felt empty. As soon as she hung up, her phone rang again. This time it was her mother. Claire, what the hell are you doing? Deborah's voice was sharp, edged with the same fear Claire remembered from childhood. I got a call from a lawyer today, one of Victor's. He said you're interfering in private family matters and warned me to talk some sense into you. Claire's stomach churned. Victor was closing in. You need to stop, Claire, Deborah continued. You don't know what men like him are capable of. Yes, she did. She had lived through it before. Claire could still picture her mother sitting at the kitchen table, reading the settlement papers after her father's death. Papers that forced them into silence. Their world had crumbled, and the people responsible had walked away untouched. Claire had been too young to fight then, but she wasn't a child anymore. You didn't fight for Dad, Claire said softly. I won't make the same mistake. Silence. Then Deborah's voice quieter. Then be ready to lose. The line went dead. Claire clenched her fists, forcing down the panic rising in her chest. Victor was playing a psychological game. If she didn't take control, she'd lose before she even had a chance to fight. She needed to find a crack in his armor. Claire pulled out her notes, every name, every incident she had uncovered about Victor. She focused on the former business partner, Daniel Royce, a man who had once been Victor's equal before his company mysteriously collapsed. After an hour of searching, she found him. Royce was living in a rundown motel, barely scraping by. Victor had ruined him. Claire grabbed her keys. If anyone knew how Victor operated, it was Royce. And if she was going to win this, she needed to know exactly what kind of monster she was up against. Claire barely had time to process the weight of everything Victor had done when her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Her pulse quickened. She hesitated before answering. A smooth, controlled voice filled the line. Claire Morrison, we should talk. She gripped the phone tighter. Victor. He chuckled, as if amused by her defiance. I was hoping you'd be smarter than this. Digging through my affairs, meddling in things that don't concern you, it's reckless. Claire forced herself to stay calm. Edwin is your father. His affairs should concern you, but apparently they don't. A pause. Then, with unsettling ease, Victor said, You don't belong in this, Claire, but because I'm a reasonable man, I'll give you a chance to walk away. Her gut twisted. Here it comes. I'm willing to make this easy for you, he continued. Your job? The complaint disappears? Your sister's adoption? Approved? Your name? Scrubbed from every file I've touched? All you have to do is drop this ridiculous crusade. Claire clenched her jaw. And Edwin? He's fine where he is. Number, he's trapped in a house that isn't even his anymore, abandoned by the son who should be protecting him. Victor sighed. I didn't abandon him. I contained him. There's a difference. My father has lived long enough to know that power is for those who take it. His voice darkened. You think you're some kind of hero? You're not. You're just another person who doesn't understand how the world works. And people like that, well, they don't last long. Claire's chest tightened. A threat wrapped in civility. I'm giving you a gift, Claire, he said. Take it. Or don't, but understand. If you refuse, things get messy. The line went dead. She exhaled shakily, trying to steady herself. Victor wasn't bluffing. He had already attacked her career and her family. If she pushed forward, what would he take next? Then her thoughts snapped back to Edwin. She grabbed her coat and rushed to his house, dread curling in her stomach. When she arrived, the porch light flickered weakly, casting eerie shadows. She knocked. No answer. Edwin? The door creaked open. Inside, the house was dimly lit, the air thick with something stale. Claire stepped in cautiously, her heart pounding. Then she saw him. Edwin sat in his armchair, looking smaller than ever. His hands trembled as he held a crumpled letter. His eyes were hollow, defeated. Claire rushed to his side. Edwin, what happened? He swallowed hard before handing her the letter. An eviction notice? Victor had made his move. Edwin had a week to leave. Claire's blood ran cold. Victor wasn't just trying to silence her. He was cutting off every escape, ensuring there was nowhere left to run. But he had underestimated something. She wasn't running. She was fighting. Claire stared at the eviction notice in Edwin's trembling hands. The paper felt like a death sentence. He's pushing me out, Edwin said, his voice brittle. This house. Margaret and I built a life here. And now it's all gone. Claire's fists tightened. Victor was making sure Edwin had nothing left. We're not done yet, she said. There has to be something we can use against him. Edwin's gaze darkened. Margaret knew. Before she died, she knew something wasn't right. Claire leaned in. What do you mean? He reached into a drawer, pulling out a faded envelope. She wrote this weeks before she died. I never had the heart to open it. Claire carefully unfolded the letter. The handwriting was shaky but unmistakable. If anything happens to me, don't trust Victor. He's after the money. I don't know what he's planning, but I feel it coming. Claire's breath hitched. Margaret had been afraid. Edwin ran a hand through his thinning hair. She told me she was changing the will. She said Victor couldn't be trusted. But before she could do anything, she was gone. A fresh wave of anger coursed through Claire. Victor hadn't just stolen his father's wealth. He had ensured Margaret never had the chance to fight back. A new thought hit her. Edwin, who handled her medication? His eyes widened. Victor insisted on managing it. He said he wanted to take care of everything himself. Claire's stomach twisted. What if Margaret's death wasn't natural at all? She needed more. A witness. That night, Claire tracked down Maria Ortega, the Tates' longtime housekeeper. At first, Maria was hesitant, shifting nervously as she spoke. I don't want trouble. You don't have to protect him, Claire urged. If Victor did something, people need to know. Maria's expression wavered. Then, in a hushed voice, she whispered, I saw him. Changing her pills. Claire's pulse spiked. What do you mean? 2 days before she died, Maria said, voice shaking. He threw out her prescription bottle and replaced it. I didn't think much of it at the time. But then she was gone. Just like that. Claire swallowed hard. Margaret might not have died from natural causes. She might have been poisoned. Armed with the letter and Maria's testimony, she rushed to Sarah Langley. Sarah scanned the letter, her lawyer's mind already working. This is enough to open an investigation. Claire exhaled, relief washing over her. Then Sarah's expression turned grim. But you know what Victor does to people who threaten him, right? Claire already knew. She had seen what he did to Edwin, to her own family, to everyone who stood in his way. But for the first time, she had something Victor didn't expect. Proof. And she was about to use it. Claire had one shot to bring Victor down. She, Sarah, and Edwin sat in Sarah's office, the dim glow of the desk lamp casting long shadows. The evidence was strong, but not enough for an immediate arrest. Sarah tapped Margaret's letter. It's compelling, but not conclusive. And Maria's statement? It's still hearsay unless we get something solid. The police won't touch Victor unless we make this undeniable. Claire leaned forward. Then we make him confess. Edwin looked skeptical. He's too careful. Claire's mind raced. Victor thought he had won. He believed she had no choice but to surrender. If she played this right, he would slip. Let's give him what he wants, she said. A meeting. I'll make him think I'm backing down. Sarah's eyes widened. Claire, that's reckless, Edwin finished. Claire smiled grimly. It's also our best chance. 2 days later, Claire sat in a high-end restaurant waiting for Victor. Her nerves were steel, but beneath them, adrenaline burned. A tiny recording device sat in her purse, already running. Victor arrived, radiating arrogance in a tailored suit. He slid into the chair across from her, his smirk oozing confidence. So, he said, swirling his whiskey, you've finally come to your senses? Claire forced a tight smile. You win. You were right. I should have walked away. Victor leaned in, his expression amused. I told you from the beginning, Claire, you don't understand how power works. She swallowed her disgust. You're a step ahead of everyone. I see that now. His eyes gleamed with satisfaction. That's why I'm successful. My father was weak, my mother was sentimental. If I hadn't taken control, everything would have been wasted. Claire tilted her head. Even your mother? Victor smirked. She never knew what was good for her. If she had just stayed out of it. He took a sip of his drink, then leaned closer. She would have lived longer. Claire's heart pounded. Got you. She forced herself to keep playing along. So you really did it? You changed her meds? Victor exhaled in mock exasperation. Claire, some people just need a little push. My mother was in the way. My father? Useless. And now you know why you shouldn't be involved in things you can't control. Before Claire could reply, a hand clamped down on Victor's shoulder. Mr. Tate, a voice said, you're under arrest. Victor's smirk vanished as two plainclothes officers pulled him from his chair. Sarah appeared behind them, her phone in hand, playing the recording. Victor's face contorted with rage as he realized he had walked right into it. You think this will stop me? He spat as the officers cuffed him. I'll bury you, Claire. She met his glare with calm defiance. You already tried, she said, and look where you are now. The courtroom was packed. The air buzzed with anticipation as Victor Tate sat in the defendant's chair, his face a mask of forced composure. Claire sat beside Edwin, gripping his frail hand as the prosecution presented their case. The recording, Margaret's letter, Maria's testimony, and the financial records Victor thought he had buried. Piece by piece, the truth unraveled. Victor's once flawless reputation collapsed in real time. His lawyer fought hard, trying to spin his confession as misinterpreted sarcasm, but the jury wasn't buying it. The evidence was too damning. After 3 tense days, the verdict was in. Guilty. The word rang in Claire's ears like a final cleansing note. Victor was convicted of financial fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy to commit manslaughter. The full investigation into Margaret's death was still ongoing, but it no longer mattered. He was going away for a long time. Edwin let out a shaky breath, eyes shining with relief. It's over, he whispered. Claire nodded, but deep down, she knew. It would never really be over. A month later, Claire met Edwin at a new assisted living home, one that he had chosen for himself. His old house was gone, but this time it was on his terms. You did it, Claire, Edwin said, looking healthier than he had in months. I don't know how to thank you, she smiled. Just promise me you'll enjoy the time you have left. He patted her hand. Margaret would have liked you. She always believed in fighting for what's right. Claire swallowed past the lump in her throat. That was the thing about justice. It didn't fix the past, but it gave people like Edwin a future. That night, Claire returned home, expecting peace. Instead, she found an envelope slipped under her door. No return address. Just her name, written in sharp, slanted letters. Inside was a single note. You may have won the battle, but the war is far from over. Claire's heart pounded as she stared at the message. She thought she had ended this, thought Victor was the last threat, but someone else was watching, and they weren't done with her yet. Claire sat at her kitchen table, the anonymous note resting in front of her like a loaded gun. You may have won the battle, but the war is far from over. Her hands trembled, but not from fear, from anger. Who else was still out there? Who else had a stake in Victor's game? She reached for her phone and called Sarah. You got the letter? Sarah's voice was tense. Yeah, Claire said. Any idea who sent it? Sarah hesitated. I have a theory, but you're not going to like it. Claire leaned forward. Tell me. Victor didn't work alone, Sarah said. He had silent partners, people who backed his businesses, profited from his takeovers. And when he fell, he took a lot of powerful people down with him. Claire's pulse quickened. So this isn't just revenge. This is about unfinished business. Sarah exhaled. Exactly. Someone out there thinks you're still a problem. Claire let the information sink in. This wasn't over. The next day, Claire visited Edwin. He was in his garden at the assisted living home, tending to a small bed of flowers. He looked at peace. You seem happy, she said, watching him work. He smiled. First time in years, I think. Then his expression darkened. But you don't look happy, Claire. She hesitated before handing him the letter. His face twisted as he read it. It's not over, is it? He murmured. No, she admitted. Edwin's grip on the paper tightened. I should have seen this coming. Victor wasn't just my son. He was trained to be what he became. And the people who trained him, they won't let this go. Claire swallowed hard. Then what do I do? Edwin studied her for a long moment before saying, You prepare. Claire exhaled, steadying herself. She had started this journey because of one vulnerable man, an old widower being pushed aside by the son who was supposed to protect him. She hadn't expected it to spiral into something bigger, something far darker. But here she was, and she wasn't backing down. As she left Edwin's home, the wind picked up, scattering fallen leaves across the sidewalk. Claire tucked the letter into her pocket, her mind already working through the possibilities. She had thought Victor was the monster in this story, but now she realized he was only the beginning. There were others, shadows lurking behind Victor's power, people who had enabled him, funded him, protected him. And now that he was gone, they were watching her. She glanced over her shoulder as she walked, scanning the street, the parked cars, the quiet figures moving in the distance. For the first time, she wondered, had she started a fight she wasn't ready to finish? One thing was certain. This war was far from over. If you loved this twist, just wait. There's more where that came from. Watch the next revenge story now and see karma strike again. Don't forget to like and subscribe to keep the stories coming.